Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Mind is a process that can never remain silent. What is a river? Is it a stationary river? There are two banks. Between them is the river bed on which water is constantly flowing. In the same way, mind is a process that has two shores. One is death-bound, which is body. The other is deathless, which is the being. Between the two, constantly thoughts flow, emotions flow, and so many things keep on flowing. Mind is created from outside. When you were born, there was just a capacity for the mind, but no mind. Just a possibility, a potentiality you were born with. So if a child is brought up without society, without a society, the child will grow, will have the body, but not the mind. He will not be able to speak any language. He will not be able to think in terms of concepts. He will be just animal. Mind has a utility. It is because of the mind that I am able to make the sentences, use the correct words to form the sentence and thus the message. Society trains the capacity, the capability of the child and makes it actual. It gives you a mind. That is why there is a Hindu mind which is of a certain quality. A Muslim mind is of another quality. Both are men, but their minds are different. They cry the same way. They laugh the same way when they cry. Muslim uses the Islamic words, the Hindu uses the Hindu words, the Christian uses the Christian words. These minds are different because different societies have cultivated them with different purposes and different goals. A child, a boy is born or a girl is born. They do not have the mind but the capabilities, the possibility that mind can sprout. They come like a seed. It can be there, but it cannot be there. At the same time, it is just a seed. Then you start training them. A boy becomes one mind and the girl becomes a different mind because you teach them differently. Then a Hindu becomes different and a Hindu becomes different from a Muslim, from a Christian or a Jew. Then a theist is different and atheist is different. These minds are brought up in you They are conditioned, forced upon you. Because of this, mind can never be progressive. It is always orthodox and old. What you are taught, Hindus are taught something which is 5,000 years old. Christians are taught which is 2,000, almost 2,000 years ago. And so is the Muslims. They cannot be a progressive mind. So this statement may look strange, but the fact is this mind is very orthodox and old. It is based on the old premises. Mind is orthodox because it is a conditioning. So these so-called progressives are much orthodox about their progressiveness as any orthodox person. Look at a communist. He thinks he is very progressive, but Das Kapital of Karl Marx is authoritative on a communist. He thinks that he is progressive, but he is not. Das Kapital is imposed on a communist. Quran is imposed on a Muslim. That's how he become a Muslim. Gita is imposed on Hindu. And if you start criticizing Marx, the communist feels as much hurt as a Jain feels, or a Hindu feels, or a Muslim feels. Mind is orthodox because it is a conditioning by the past. Your conditioning, Hindu conditioning, is 5,000 years old. Muslim is of a different nature. Your mind is conditioned by the society, by the others for certain purpose. That is why I am making you aware of the fact, because life changes every moment, but mind belongs to the past. Mind is always old and life is new. This creates tension and conflict. So a new situation arises. You fall in love with a woman, and you have a Hindu mind and the woman have a Muslim mind. There is bound to be conflict. Now there is going to be much anguish unnecessarily. The woman is Muslim, life has brought you to a situation where you fell in love with her. Now life gives you a new phenomena, but mind does not know how to deal with this situation. There is no know-how, and this conflict is bound to remain. That is why in a very changing world, people are becoming uprooted. Their lives have become anxiety. This was not so in the past. Man was silent because along with the religion, strict rules were introduced that we will marry in our own community, so that ways and means and everything are similar. It used to be said, I have heard older people saying that the tradition on this side of the bank of the river were different than on the other side of the river. So people from this side of the river will not marry the other side of the river. So the man was silent. Not so really, but he appeared more silent because the state of affairs around him were almost static. They have the same traditions, same religious beliefs. There was not much conflict. Now everything is changing so fast that mind cannot change at that speed. It is a freedom, and a Muslim can marry a Hindu can marry a Christian can marry a Jew, and people of one country can marry the other. There are cultural differences, there are religious differences, the habitual differences. That is why there is so much anxiety in the West. In the East, still it is less. It is strange because East has to face more basic problems: food, clothes, houses. These are the basic problems that Eastern countries have to do. West has more anxiety. It is affluent, scientific, and technologically developed. Now things are changing. Even the East is becoming more and more affluent because technology gives life such a rapid change that mind cannot cope with it. Before you were adjusted to the new thing, the new has become old and has changed. By the time you get used to one model of your smartphone, a new model comes in. So you have to buy the new model. And by the time you get adjusted, this becomes old. Constantly, what is new today becomes old tomorrow. A gap comes in. Life is bringing new situations. Mind always tries to react with the old conditioning. That gap goes on growing. The more the gap is there, the more there will be anxiety, because mind is orthodox and life is not. When you fall in love with a person of a different religious or cultural background, it is the emotions. Other factors are not taken into account, the cultural, the religious differences. These are the reasons why mind itself is a disease. So what to do? If you are going to treat the mind, there are easy ways. Psychoanalysis is easy. It may take a long time, it may not succeed, but still it is not difficult. But this transcendence of the mind is difficult, arduous, because you have to leave the mind completely. You have to take the wings and fly to go beyond. That leaves the mind as it is. Do not touch it. For example, I am here and the room is hot or the room is cold. I can do two things. If the room is hot, I can put on air conditioner, but I continue to live in the mind. If it is cold, I can put on the blow heater, but I still go on living in the room. I can go on making arrangements so that the room is comfortable, but then every arrangement has to be looked after, and then every arrangement creates its own anxieties and problems. There is another possibility. I can leave the room and go out if it is hot. This is the difference. West goes on living in the same room of the mind, trying to adjust, to make arrangements so that living in the mind becomes at least normal. It may not be very blissful, but it becomes less and less unhappy. It may not reach a point, a peak of happiness, but one is saved from such suffering. There is less and less suffering. Freud said that there is no possibility for man to be happy. At the most, if you can arrange your mind in such a way that you are normal, you will be less unhappy. He does not say you will be happy. You will be less unhappy than others. That is all. This is very hopeless, but Freud is very genuine, authentic thinker, and his insight is right. It is in a way because he cannot see anything beyond the mind. That is why East has not yet developed any psychology comparable to the West. Compared to Freud, Jung, Alder, and that is strange because East is not talking about the mind for at least 5,000 years. With 5,000 years of talking, East has been talking about the mind for the past at least 5,000 years. With 5,000 years of talking about mind, meditation going beyond, why could not the East create this psychology? Psychology is a very recent development of the West. Why could not the East create a psychology? Buddha was here who talked about the deepest layers of the mind. He talked about the conscious. He talked about the subconscious. He talked about the unconscious. He must have known, but why could not he develop these psychologies about the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious? The reason is this: East is not interested in room, making the room comfortable to adjust for the summer or winter, for happiness or sorrow. It talks about the room a little in order to go beyond, to go out. We have been interested in the room just to find the door. The East has been interested in the room so that it can find the door. That is all. We are not interested in details about the room. We are not going to live in it. So the only interest has been in knowing where the door is, how to go out. We have talked about the room only so that the door could be located and you could go out. This is the difference of the Eastern understanding and the Western understanding is this: you have to make the room comfortable to adjust for the summer and adjust for the winter. There are devices, but they have their own shortcomings. This has been the whole interest. That's why the psychology could not be developed in the East, in India. Mahavir, Buddha, all these awakened ones did not care about it. If you are not interested in this room, you will not make a map of the room You will not measure every wall and every inch of the space. You will not call the air conditioner man to come and give the estimate for the most suitable size of the air conditioner or the heater. You are not bothered about these things. You are only interested in where is the door, where is the window, so you can jump out of the room. And the moment you are out, you will forget about the room completely, because then you are under the infinite sky. You will not even remember that there was a room once where you lived in a cave, while all the time the infinite sky was beyond, outside, but you were living in your cave of the mind. And you could have moved out any moment. You will forget the room completely. If you go beyond the mind, what happens? Mind remains the same. You do not make any change in the mind, but you go beyond it and everything changes. Then you can come back to the mind, come back to the room again if you need to, but you will be a different person. You have seen the infinite sky, and having seen that, that means you get a glimpse of something which is beyond the mind, beyond the cave, beyond the limitations of the mind, and then you come back. This going out and coming in will have made the qualitatively different. It will make you qualitatively different. A man, as compared to the man who has been living in a room, who has not known anything on the outside, it is not really a man. He lives like a beetle. He lives like an insect. When he moves out to the sky, the open sky, to the sun, to the clouds, to the rain, to the infinite expanse, he becomes different immediately. This impact of infinite makes him for the first time a man or consciousness. He has to go out of the limitations of the room, find the door or the window and jump out of the room, experience the infinite expanse of the sky, and then if he chooses, he can come back. This is what happened. Buddha experienced the beyond and came in. All the awakened ones have jumped out of the room, experienced everything, and then come back. So they are not conditioned by a Hindu mind or a Muslim mind or the Christian mind. Yet still there are some who remain within the narrow boundaries of the mind. Now he can move to the room again, but he will be a different person. Now the room will only be something which is used. So the mind will not be, this room will not dominate you. It is not a prison. He can move out anytime. Again, then the room becomes just something to be used. Just as you go for some time to a retreat and you come back. You need time to go out. You go to another city, stay in another hotel or room or something and then come back. So something mind becomes then utilitarian. Previously, you were imprisoned in it. Now you are not. Now you are the master. And you know the sky is outside, the infinite is waiting for you. And even this room is part of the infinite now. Even this small infinite sky and inner space within the room is the space, the same space which is outside. The sky that is have a expanse outside, infinite expanse, the similar sky exists within you also. The man becomes having experienced the infinite expansion of the sky, he comes again and lives in the room. He uses the room, but he is not imprisoned. And this is the qualitative change. He is concerned with how you can go beyond the mind and then use it. You cannot stay in the mind trying to adjust it to your comfort for summer and winter and be comfortable. No, you have to go out, experience the outer realm, and then you can come back. Then the room will not be a prison for you. Do not be identified with the mind. That is the real message. And the technique for not being identified with the message is to experience something which is beyond. All the techniques of meditation are concerned only about how to find the door, how to use the key, how to unlock the door and go out. This is the introduction to the techniques, which are, because there are people who are intellect oriented and there are people who are feeling oriented. So we will take these sutras and explain them in more details in the coming session. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.